Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, Fantasy back with another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. If you enjoyed them, like, comment, subscribe, and sponsor, shall we? This time we're covering Lyrical Monasterio Set 3 Fortia. Fortia friends, FF. The first F standing for fuck you. The second F also standing for fuck you, because it's a double fuck you, because when I played this deck, anyone who fights it has tended to have a loss on their side. Because this deck somehow hits for consistent numbers, and I sack triggers with it like there are no tomorrow when I want to. And when I say when I want to, I mean every time I've said get to a critical trigger, the second I say it, crit flops up from the top of the deck. So yeah, don't fuck with me when I'm playing this, because I'll just sack crits on you. Or fronts, or draws, because it's happened with others. And it happened once with the over, so I'm banking on it happening again with heals. So let's go and get the started, shall we? And we can kind of see the chaos unfold with this deck. First up, we have Mimish Tublia, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto when she's rode upon. If you win second, draw a card. Standard starter, not special. It's just a free draw if you win second. Honestly, you can use any starter for this deck because you don't really need a specific starter. But I do like to have Tublia as my starter because, you know, Mimish line, so why not? And we have our over in Fantastic Farnail, Katrina. God, I hate that name. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Over trigger mode, 1 over trigger deck. Reveal the trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of its, I guess plus 1 mana for the turn. And if you reveal it during draw tech activation, which activate its additional effect, which is during this fight, you get during your turn all your rearguards get plus 10. Okay, I've said in other deck profiles for this, for Lyrical Monasterio so far, that if essentially if you pull it in any aggressive Lyrical Monasterio deck, it's instant game. Yeah, it's instant game here. Like, the numbers I hit are astronomically insane. Or maybe not astronomically, but let's just say this. The feeling I play Bastion is when I play as Bastion is the feeling I play as here. Hit with a fucking power of a 10-ton truck and watch my opponent struggle to stay standing. So take that statement as you will. Having a over trigger that gives plus 10 to my whole board, which is almost always 5 units, and I mean almost always. I think the only time it's not is when I'm on grade 1, and that's it. So yeah, Katrina is amazing, and pretty much the second I sack this, regardless of what point in the game it is, if it's during a drive check, you're probably screwed. So Katrina's my over. Then we have our normal triggers. 3 of Snow Skip Palvi. Meow. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, front trigger is guard circle. If your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 grade, so it goes 5k shield. So he's a 20k shield. Okay, we have a nice front. The justifiable reason for running this is this. My rear guards somehow will hit, I mean, there are occasions where they'll hit low numbers, like 20. And then there are the occasions where they'll hit 40. So yeah, what I mean by this is, there are the fields that I will make because I didn't draw my 2 good cards that will bring my rear guards down to 25 at most without triggers. Then there are the games where I actually do get my 2 pieces and my rear guards are now swinging for the 30s on their own, and then plus a front, they're in the 40s or 50s possibly. So Snow Skip is all around nice to have because it makes my front row BS as fuck, and when you have a restanding vanguard, might as well benefit from the fronts. 3 up from the fronts. Run 4 draws just in case I'm crazy enough to go all in, because that's what I always do when I play this deck. Transparent Snowy Knight Bear Toy, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base. Draw taking to guard circle of your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 grade plus 5k shield. Cool, she's a 10k shield. Here's the issue with this. I straight up call my entire hand pretty much the second I get to grade 2. So having a draw trigger to fix my stupidity is kind of really important. That's why the draw's here. Once we get to the late game, or like past first grade 3 turn, typically that's when the draw stops being like the main thing I want to see. But during those 2 turns where I immediately go all in and set the pace for the game, the draw comes in really helpful as my saving grace. So 4 of draws. If you don't call everything on your grade 2 turn, then please don't run draws. Probably run extra crits and fronts, but I like that draw. It helps me get my hand cards back, and the fronts have the power boost, and then we have our 4 crits and Precious Tune Edwidge, aka the thing I will never call because my board is typically full by the time I would call this. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto root, the end battle she boosted, put it to soul, choose one of 6 plus 2 for the bat turn. Okay, it's just free soul if you need it to. The 2k doesn't really do much. It opens up 4, which isn't really that good in a deck that wants to have a bunch of rear guards. The crit though helps because, you know, restanding vanguard adds pressure. Run the crit out of 4 of, honestly. You have the crits to worry about, you have the fronts to worry about, and you have 2 other rear guards that are gonna beat the shit out of you, and another vanguard attack. Good for you. You're gonna die this turn. All around, this is the trigger lineup. Then we have a 4 normally here, then Peaceful Guardian, Annika. We all know why I don't like the effect heals. too situational in my opinion. If you want to run the effect heals, go ahead, but I do like my normal 15k grade 0 boost with 5k power heal. So yeah, that's the trigger lineup. Pure chaos at its finest. Whenever I really have needed to see a trigger, they kind of come through for me on a BS extent, and even when I don't see them, power is not an issue, and straight up I am hitting like a truck. So yeah, take that as you will. For all we care, none of these could be triggers and be normal units without the trigger icon, and this deck would still hit numbers, so take that as you will. Now we move on to our first grade 1. 3 copies of Earnest Stare, Iveta. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Friend, continues rear guard circle. If you have another friend in the same column as unit, they become friends, AK B-Tech Harmony. And then continues rear guard if you have another friends, this unit gets plus 2k. Works during both players' turns, really nice because that means this is essentially a 10k base during both players' turns. So if you have to call her to the front row, which I have had to do on some occasions, that's actually fine because, hey, she has the stats of a grade 2. And honestly, that's pretty nice because guess what? That 10k boost, yeah, that does something in the early game. And when I say early game, I mean, remember, again, I call stuff the second I get to grade 2. When you have 2 of these in the side back row, and then you have 2 rear guards that are swinging for plus 10 from their skills, so they're swinging at what, plus 20? I think it might be a different rear guard that does that, but pretty much my rear guards are swinging for the 30s while they're at grade 2. So, do you have Iveta? It's good. It's nice to have a grade 1 that just beats a 10k base in the early game. Doesn't do much in the late game, but the 10k still helps, so 3 of. Then we have 4 copies of Soapy Splash Revenia, grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, contains Sentinel, 4 signs of deck, and auto is put on guard circle. True to units, it cannot be hit on battle to end of turn, or end of battle, sorry, wrong statement. It cannot be hit to end of battle, not till end of turn, and if your hand has 2 or more cards, use a card from hand, discard it. So standard PG, no special, but basically that means if this is only one of the cards in your hand when you place this on guard circle, that means you do not have to discard it, discard for the skill, which is really nice because that basically means you get to be free in your attacking. You can go all out and then not have to suffer that stupidity benefit when your opponent's counterattacking with their all out because you're playing a game of chicken and you didn't think they would actually run headfirst into you. So yeah, this is, believe it or not, this has actually rarely come in, that ability, because typically no one really plays chicken with me because of this. They're kind of backing off because we both know that if I live to my next turn, you ain't living to yours. So, for Ravina, she helps. The ability to defend myself even when I've done something stupid is pretty nice, but honestly that ability rarely comes inactive. Like I said, don't play a game of chicken with me because we both know that in the long run, if you don't kill me now, I will kill you on my turn, so you better finish it now. So 4 of the PG. It's just helpful to have a PG. Then we have our last grade 1, 2 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck, just so we have more friends, Mimish and Zedshire. And Zedshire. Grade 1 boost by Kashodix, AK base, friend, can use Vanguard rear guard. If you have another unit in the same column as it, this and that unit becomes friends. And then auto when she's rode upon by Mimish Rikashima, call it to rear. Cool, so she gets a free call free and she's friends with anything in the column. There are other friends that are grade 1s, but I don't particularly like their skills. And we all know that I hate putting in a card and then not using its full skill. And because I know I'm not going to use their full skills, or at least not intentionally, yeah, I'd rather run Eisenchair, who, well, yes, is a vanilla outside of the friend thing. At least I'm going to use her full skills. So 2 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck. It's nice to have friends. Then we move on to our grade 2s. 4 copies of Chair Smile Larissa. She is my favorite friend in this deck. Grade 2 NSF, 5k shield, 10k base, friend, continues rear guard. I'm just going to stop saying it at this point. We all know what they do, but yeah, same unit, same column, units become friends. Auto rear when this unit attacks. If your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, she gets plus 2k to end the battle for each of your other friends. Okay, so while she does not get power for herself, she can attack into anything as long as the opponent's vanguard is grade 3 or greater during the time span of this, whether it attacks into a grade 1 rear guard. And the best part about this is she will always be a plus 20 in my deck because I will always have 5 friends. Because I will always call things to my board. And that is honestly pretty great because that means she's a constant 20 plus my possible Iveta boost, making her a 30, plus Persona Ride, most likely occurring, 40. And even if I don't Persona Ride, I am more likely than not going to sack a trigger. So she's always going to be a 40 pretty much. So all around, Larissa is basically my power beat stick. AK, if you see her come down on my board, murder her immediately because I promise you, she will probably be the thing that caused the most trouble to you that you are able to get rid of. So, 4 of Larissa, she is honestly amazing. The numbers she gets are incredible and I love her for that. 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Hoppy Stellar Melty. Grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base, friend, continues rear guard. If you have another friend in the same column as her, they become friends. And then auto when she's placed on rear during your main phase, counter boss 1, choose to 1 card with grade less than or equal to your vanguard from hand, call to rear. And if you call a card, draw a card. Okay, I think I've made my point clear on how I feel about Melty, where I don't hate her, but I hate her being used in non-friend based decks. But you know what? She's fine here. Deck being counterblasty, yeah, she kind of causes an issue, but when you're calling straight up everything in the early game, again, I feel like I have to highlight this to people. I call everything. When I mean everything, I mean, yeah, obviously not everything, but until my board is full. So, you know, having Melty there to essentially do the same thing, but possibly net me a draw out of it, kinda helpful. 4 of Melty. While she doesn't necessarily stop my stupidity, she at least balances it out. 4 of. After she kind of is like 50-50, because most of my board is full by then, so, Then we have our last grade 2 in the main deck, which is Boisterous High Tension Roxella. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Friend continues to. Also, I find it funny how we went from. Whoops, wrong direction. Oh, never mind. I thought she was a double rare. I was about to say we went from rare to double rare to triple rare. But anyways, she's a friend as per usual. And then auto rear when this unit attacks a vanguard. If you have 3 or more other friends, she gets +5 for the battle. And if you have 5 or more, choose one of your rear guards with the friend ability not in the same column as her and bounce it to hand. I always like swinging with her last because one, not only does she work while the opponent's not at grade 3, meaning that I can do my whole Melty shenanigans, get a board, etc., and then do combos, so she's at least swinging for probably a 23 if I have a Veta behind her, which is a more likely scenario than anything else. She's a 25k swing, but now if I do have 5 friends, which again is very likely because I most likely have a full board, she will bounce one of my units to my hand, which is great because then that means if I need another Melty for next turn to get draws, I can get a booster back for next turn. Hell, there was a time I called a PG back to my rear guard, which thankfully never happened up until she was revealed, which came in really helpful because I was able to bounce the PG right back to my hand. So all around. Oh wait, no, it wasn't the friend ability. Whoops, my bad. Well, I got a free PG back. On the bright side though, I didn't end up needing to use the PG, so I guess all is fair that ends well. But anyways, Roxella all around is a really good card. Allowing you to bounce back any friend is great because that essentially means you know, you get to reuse a lot of your rear guards. So for Roxella, she's just a good grade 2. She gets the power, she gets a rear guard bounce. What's not to like about her? 4 of, and she does it all for free while your opponent's at grade 2. Then we have Mimish Rikimishia. That is wrong. Mimish Rikashina. Grade 2 is 5k shield, 10k base. Friend, continues Vanguard, rear guard, standard ability, and then continues Vanguard. If you have another friend in the same column as her, obvious, or you have another friend in general, so it doesn't have to be a unit behind her. It can be any unit as long as you have a friend. When you would ride Mimish from Fortia from your ride deck, you may ride without discarding card from your hand. Great, so free ride deck ride. I really wish it was less generic of a skill, but hey, you know what? It's fine. We get a free ride, and honestly, when I first built this deck, that was kind of a possibility that I would need that free discard for. So around, Rikashina's pretty decent, being able to trigger not by her own friend, but also just by anyone's friend on your board. So that's great to have. I like her. Why not make her a ride deck grade 2 at 1? And there's no reason to run her in the main deck because the friend ability, yeah, the grade 1 got here on a technicality. We have really good grade 2 lineup, so yeah, none in the main deck. Then our grade 3s. 4 copies of Motivation Aplenty Arlette. Great God, look at her smile. She looks so happy. Grade 3 turns Persona, 13k base. Friend, continues rear guard. If you have another unit in the same column as this unit, she becomes friends as per usual. And in auto rear at the end of the battle, she attacked. If you have 3 or more of the friends, soul bounce 1 bouncer to hand. All around, not terrible. She allows you to, you know, get the grade 3 back. So if you know your opponent's playing a nuke deck, you know, this deck has very few Soul Blast costs. Being able to just free bounce is amazing. Also, if you've noticed, this deck has little to no cost. I mean, it's this, and Fortia that have cost in this deck out in terms of units, basically meaning everything else is free range of when you get to use your skills. And Arlette definitely works a lot with Roxella in the games we're playing against decks that murder your rear guard, such as Baz Fagra, Eugene, and Gravidia. So having the ability to, like, you know, use Roxella first to bounce your center rear guard, and then having Arlette because you definitely have 3 or more other friends at this point. Soul Boss 1 to bounce herself. Now you have 2 hand cards, and while yes, you have to lose Roxella and your other 2 rear guards, at least you save 2 units to make a combo with next turn. All around, I like Arlette a lot. She's definitely really useful. Unfortunately, she does not have time to come on the rear guard as of late because simply put, Roxella plus Larissa has basically been doing game because Melty grade 2 turn into this, and then going into my next turn with this on my board with this. Yeah, the chaos I ensue is incredible. So for Varlet, she will come back in useful and relevance later when I play against another rearguard murder deck, but otherwise she gets to sit on the back foot for now, but don't sleep on her because she is really good. So 4 of. Then we have our last grade 3 and our last unit card in the deck, but not the last card in the deck. 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the right deck of our girl, the myth, the man, or the woman, the legend, Mimish Fortia. Grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base, friend as per usual, the continues fan, rear guard, same unit column thing. And then auto van, once per turn at the end of the battle, she attacked. If you have 5 or more other friends, really easy to have in this deck. Counter boss 1, discard 1, stand this unit, it gets plus 5k and lose the draft for the turn. Okay, so for the record, any of those of you having a confusion of how friends work, you don't need 2 cards with the friend ability to have them all in friends. You just technically need 3 to have your full board in friends. 1 in each column because it makes that unit with the friend ability and the other unit in its column have the friend thing. So you don't technically need a full board of friends, but I like to have the full board of friends because they made it a gimmick, might as well have it. So honestly, that rear guard, or that restand skill, as simple as it may be and as easy as it is to pull off, honestly, that skill has been the devastator of so many decks. Like, it was more powerful than powerful. I'm not saying something considering powerful's keyword is literally called powerful. Because, yeah, an 18k swing doesn't sound like much. It's not. But, like I said, casual 40k swinger, at least swinging for 25 on my grade 2 turn, not counting my grade 3. I am almost guaranteed a trigger considering how this deck plays when I play it. It's just bonkers. The restand may be simple and small, but what it does in return is kind of deadly, especially because it's only for the cost of a counter boss and a discard, and half the time after I get to grade 3, I don't really use Melty, so if I only used her once, that essentially means the rest of the game I could just use Fortia for counter boss. So around Fortia is pretty good. I like her in the games where my opponent's not murdering my rear guards. It's almost a guaranteed win because I don't have to focus on guarding my rear guards. I have to focus on guarding my vanguard. And if it's in the case where they are focused on killing my rear guards, okay, I do have to call some stuff, but that's what Melty's for. Melty fixes that problem instantly. And so does Arlette and Roxella. So all around, Fortia is really good. I like her to 3 of in the main deck for persona purposes and then 1 of in the right deck. And then we move on to our last card, which is 2 copies of Sweet X Sweet. I swear on my life I had the other order. Well, I just double checked and apparently I didn't have the other order. Anyway, Sweet XX, or Sweet X Sweet, is grade 2, a normal order. Play it by counterblasting will. Look at top 5. Choose up to 1 unit card from Unknown Call to rear guard and structure your deck. All around, a pretty decent order. It really does help in the early game if I don't have a Melty on my side, because it helps get my board back up, especially if I am playing against another nuke deck, because even if I don't have a Melty, I have Sweet X Sweet to hopefully fix my rear guard situation and, you know, get me a board. All around, this order is pretty nice, honestly. It allows me to get rear guards. If orders weren't once per turn, I'd run this at a 4, and this would be the most broken card on my deck considering how often I actually draw into Sweet X Sweet. So 2 of in the deck. Gets me rear guards, helps me set up the early game, and possibly gets me in a comeback situation if I'm playing against a nuke deck. Why not run it at 2 of? And so for the deck, I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is pretty fun. It hits for numbers somehow stronger than what Powerful can do. It gets that restand, which sounds simple and is simple, but it gets me so many triggers that at this point, I don't even know how to count. If I literally had a dime for every time I trigger exact in this game, I'd be rich as fuck. So honestly, this deck is fun. It's good. It's powerful. Pun intended on the actual Powerful deck. It gets rear guard super quickly. It's like an instant rush deck. What's not to love about it? I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.